once in my life, I have someone who needs me, someone I needed so long. For once unafraid, I can go where life leads me. Somehow I know I'll be strong. For once I can touch what my heart used to dream of long before I knew. For someone.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Corey.
And this is Chutney.
And we are young, black, educated, and
in love.
Yes, we are in love. This is episode number 7. And so we want to thank you for watching. And for today's topic, we're going to talk about long distance relationships. And this was requested to us by some viewers. It was actually more than one. And some friends of ours asked us to do this topic. And for all of you that do not know, Chutney and I, we were in a long distance relationship for 2.5 years. She was in Tennessee. Your boy was in Indiana. And hey, we maintained, we managed, now we're together, and we in love. You like that, didn't you? But getting back on topic. And so basically we feel like there's a couple things that we can share to try to help you with your relationships. And I want to start off by saying that it was a lot of work. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it wasn't. It was a lot of work, but it was rewarding at the end of the day. And the good thing about our long distance relationship, we always say, is that since it was so much conversation, because that's all we had, that we really got to know each other. And so to start things out, Chutney's going to tell you a few requirements that we feel that you must have if you're going to be in a long distance relationship. And I know requirements is kind of strict, but if you want a long distance relationship to survive, some of these things are really, really, really needed.
So the first thing, and I have a cold, so if you hear me sniffling and all that, then
I'm taking care of it, though. You know what I'm saying? Your boy gonna put in the medical work, but go ahead.
Yeah. He is. He's been really good. But yeah, so requirements. Like Corey said, we were trying to think of a better term for it, but ultimately these things are super, super important and necessary before getting into a long distance relationship. And the first one of those things is to make sure that both parties or both individuals are committed to not only being in a relationship, but being in a long distance relationship. It's I won't say a totally different world, but
it's
it
close.
is. Yeah,
it's a different world.
It's very different, and sometimes if you're not ready to be in a serious relationship, then being in a long distance relationship can turn into one of those out of sight, out of mind type of things, to where the normal courtesies or respect things that you may do for your significant other, if you are right there at them and you are reminded about that because you're right there at them, you may forget about or not think about because the person is not there with you. So again, making sure that both individuals are ready to be not only in a relationship, a serious one, but in a long distance relationship at that. Remember that it takes the 3 elements that Corey and I always talk about from day one, which is trust, communication, and respect. And I think we're going to go a little bit more into the specifics of those 3 things, or some examples of those 3 things in our next section. And then finally, you have to remember that long distance relationships are not these just because relationships. And we call it that because you need to have purpose when you enter into a long distance relationship. Corey and I knew from the very beginning, or soon after we started talking, that we wanted to pursue an actual committed relationship with one another. And so then the conversation began about how do we make this long distance thing work. So again, let's rewind that. We decided that we wanted to be in a committed relationship. So there's a relationship piece. And then we began to talk about how we were going to make this long distance thing work.
And a part of that was that we knew we had an end point. We always, it wasn't just because we wanted an end point.
Exactly.
When are we coming together if we're going to do this thing? Because what's the point if you let's just do this, let's just see how this relationship goes. And so you're always in 2 different places. That's a just because relationship, because it has no purpose. You're not working towards something.
You don't just kick it in a long distance relationship. That makes no sense. And
that's almost an oxymoron. But
and it made it more doable, because we knew that at a certain point the 2 of us were going to come.
We were serious, and that's what happened. We realized we were both serious, and that's why Man, feel like I was getting sick. No, I'm not. But that's why we ended up together. That's why you see her sitting here with me, because we did have a purpose. And so, where are we?
How to maintain.
Oh, maintaining long distance relationship. The first thing is it's going to take a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of long nights of talking. It's a lot of nights of wishing you were with the other person.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. And so if you're not ready to put in work, because a lot of people are not even ready to put in work for a local relationship. So if you can't maintain a local relationship, I can tell you a long distance is going to be even tougher, because it takes a lot of communication, which is our second point, which is we talked every day, every night too. We used to fall asleep on the phone together. And you know, the first time it started off, I'm gonna be honest, first time it started off with us being tired and one person fall asleep on the other, but then it kind of morphed into us every night we fell asleep, like talking.
Yeah.
And next thing we know, in the morning, I don't know how my phone hung up, but it always ended up hanging up. But we talked every day.
Verbally.
Yes, verbally.
Sometimes we would chat online, or we would text, of course, but every day for at least 10 minutes. But most times it was much longer than that. We would talk verbally.
And that's when we say respect. I mean, at the least, you can give a person, if you really care about a person, you can give them 10 minutes of your time. And so we talk to a lot of young ladies that's in distance relationships that's a little younger, and the guy's not quite as serious, and they say, you know, he hasn't called me for 3 days. That's the respect piece we're talking about. You can't give me 10 minutes of your day.
Well, the thing about it was that neither Corey nor I were talkers on the phone. Like, neither one of us loves to talk on the phone, but I couldn't wait to talk to him every day. I didn't mind giving him hours and hours of my time every day. So if you're having to make time, if you're having to carve out 10 minutes of your time, then that should say
that's a red
something.
flag.
Yeah, definitely a red flag. Okay, moving on.
And so let's go forward, because we don't want to take forever. Always keep the person in the loop about what's going on. If you talk about, because you was talking about this earlier, whenever you go out.
Yeah. So this is almost another issue kind of with respect. So
communication.
It ties everything in. It ties in communication, because that's the actual act. It creates trust. And it's just a respect factor. So remember I talked about certain courtesies that you may take with the person when you're face to face. So for instance, if I knew that I was going to be hanging out with my girlfriends or some people in Tennessee, and I had told Corey, okay, I'm going to be back about 9:30, I'll call you around 10. Well, there were times when it went over, and I knew I wasn't going to be back in time to call him by 10. So I would make sure to text him or give him a call to let him know that I was going to be late. That would be kind of an obvious thing if you've got to face the person or come home to that person. But even though we were long distance, that's still a respect thing that I wanted to, or a courtesy that I wanted to give Corey, because who's to say that he wasn't waiting for my call, or that he didn't have...
Your boy was waiting for
Yeah.
Like, I want to talk to my baby, you know?
Of course he was waiting for my phone call. But yes, so that's a courtesy that sometimes may be overlooked because you're not dealing with that person face to face, but it's definitely important to have that when you're long distance.
Right. And another is make your significant other a priority, because when you're distance, it's easy to go do other things. It's easy to go out to whatever and send a text message that night, hey baby, you know how you doing, but you out partying. No, you got to treat it as if you're in person. And that's another one of our points. You try to make it as much as a normal relationship as possible. So I made sure that Wednesdays, Thursdays nights, I'm not going out because I want to spend time with her as if she was in person, but we just doing it on the phone. And so try to make it as normal as possible. And another thing we did, we tried to meet as much as possible. And we had a stipulation of once a month. We tried to see each other at least once a month. Now, there were some months that we did not, but for the most part, we did make that happen.
It's like out of the whole 2.5 years, we could count on one hand the number of times.
And it's called sacrifice. I mean, hey, if you're going to jump on that road for 6.5 hours, you're going to have to do it. And see each other.
So another thing, too, is considering how far apart the two of you are. Corey and I were a drive away, 6.5 hours. But if you're a plane ride away, then you got to take that into consideration. So...
got to do what works for you, basically.
So in making the relationship, this is one of our takeaway points. So in making the relationship normal, or as much like a local relationship as possible, one of the stipulations again was to see each other once a month. Sometimes I would go back to back to see him. Sometimes he would come back to back, or we would alternate. But it was that sacrifice, because there were times when he couldn't get off work and I had more flexibility. Talking on the phone, Skyping was something that made it more normal, to where we could literally physically see one another, and I could see what he was doing and how he looked and all that kind of thing. And then the other takeaway point again was, we talked about deciding to be committed to the relationship and to be committed to the long distance.
Both people got to agree. Both people got to agree that this is what we want, and we are willing to do the work that's required to make this thing work. Because it's not your normal everyday relationship. And
you have to, again, figure out what's going to make your relationship work the best for you. And then once you agree on those things as a couple, then you work to uphold those things and maintain it.
And the last thing is, listen, it's going to be some good days, it's going to be some bad days. You got to stick through it. And have an endpoint, come together, love each other, get married, have babies, raise a family. But we thank you for tuning in to Young Black Educated and in Love. And we hope that you continue to follow us and subscribe.
Yes.
But thank you and have a blessed day.
Bye.